Jai Gurudev, everybody. So welcome back. So we will go directly upon the question.
Dear Guruji, we have learned that service to devotees is superior to service to Sriman Narayana. Does this mean that prayers may be skipped for the sake of helping devotees, or should prayers and personal sadhana not be skipped under any circumstances?
You see, we have seen which state of service, the mind, very often people find excuses for not going for prayer, for not doing the sadhana, and said, yes, I've been doing service, I've been doing my seva. And for that they will not go to temple, they will not go to, when there's bhajan singing and satsang, all this, with an excuse that they are doing service. If that is the attitude, then the service is not at all, validated, because it is just an excuse of running away. And that very often you see that in the mind of many people. They just use the etiquettes of service for not participating in sanghas. But if sincerely one have true devotion into what one is serving, what one is doing, and remembering Bhagwan himself while service, like Krishna said in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, chapter 20, verse 31, he said, the yogi, those devotee who is fully absorbed in loving service towards me, though the mind is fully absorbed in constant remembrance of the Lord himself in whatever they do, for them the path of knowledge or the path of detachment, it's not even needed. Through they attain him, even through that, So you see in that verse from the Bhagavad itself that Bhagwan, how he is saying that those whose mind is fully absorbed into that loving service unto him. It's not about running away from one's service, because he said also, those who run away from one's service, from one duty, one dharma, they will incur laziness and so on. So here we see the state of a true devotee. A true devotee, wherever they are, whatever they do, they continuously remember that they are doing it for the Lord. And this is where work, your seva itself, become your worship. So when we see that Bhagwan have said, for them the path of knowledge is not needed, the path of detachment from anything is not needed, because the state of the mind itself will never allow them to attach to something which will make them unhappy. So that state of mind which they are is fully absorbed with the Lord himself. So whatever they do, they are doing it with constant remembrance that it is service to the feet of the Lord. So in that context, yes, if one have reached to that state where the mind is fully absorbed in the remembrance of God, God will be with them. How many times we have seen, example, even yesterday I was telling you a story where one saint was fully absorbed in serving the sadhus and the saints, that even Bhagwan himself came to render service to him. Why do you see that? Because his mind is fully absorbed into the Lord himself. There's no, you don't see the different for him when he see that the sadhus and the saints are coming. His joy and happiness is to serve them as he's serving the beloved Lord itself. So having that mind focus on him, then you can also not go for prayer. But as long as you know clearly that your mind is fully absorbed into that service, truly, sincerely, there is not a sentiment of guiltiness inside of you that I'm skipping away because I want to do something else, you know. You see that very, like I said, in the world, you know, people will find many excuses for not doing their seva. They will find many excuses for not going to do the prayer itself. You know, so, because for them they consider prayer is boring, you know, they think, oh, you know, why should I go there? Let me find something else and pretend to keep myself busy. And later on I can just have an excuse and say, okay, you know, I didn't go for prayer because I was busy doing other things. But to whom are you lying? You're lying to yourself. No? So deep inside of you, your guiltiness will grow. You know, how long would you do that? So, like we said, those whose mind is fully absorbed and sincerely, because you see, when one is sincere into that, then they will find God in whatever they do. They will enjoy what they are doing, because in that what they do, there will be that love itself. The moment that love awake in what you're doing, then you will see that what you do is your worship itself. Be it in the temple, be it in your office, be it at home, you know, you must love what you do. But at the same time, I will not tell you, okay, yeah, now very often you will say, okay, yeah, you have said to love what we do. Let's sit in front of the computer continuously and love watching the movie and all these things. You know, that will not help you, because your mind is getting diverted, your mind is getting polluted. Because when you see the service of a saintly person, you know, even if the person is doing the worst kind of things, you know, that transformation inside of him does happen. You know, for him, he don't distinguish, you know, whether this is something bad that I'm doing, you know, or something disgusting that I'm doing, you know. But he sees that job which God have given me, you know, because all kind of job is important, because each job is according to what will help you to transcend, you know, the normal limitation which people think. Because you see, when sometimes people are feeling ashamed of their job, you know, for what they do. Look, Mirabai was feeling sad for how her guru was, you know, her guru was a shoemaker, a cobbler, you know, so she was a bit ashamed of that. But the guru was never ashamed of it. He was happy, you know, he was enjoying it, because whatever he was doing, he remembered that he was doing it as a service to Bhagwan himself. You know, when we look at the life of all the saints, you know, not all of them, but some of them, you know, which are one of the saints which were a potter, and Gorakumbha, you know, from Maharashtra, who was doing pottery, you know, as his job, and in that he even crushed his son while doing the pottery, not realizing that his son, you know, came there. So he crushed the son, so feeling guilty for what he did. He broke his arm, so he could not make any pottery. What happened? Vitthal and Rukmani came in disguise to serve him, How merciful is this Lord? You see, because his livelihood is in what he was doing, and he was doing it in complete remembrance of Vittala. So even that Bhagwan himself could not see how his devotee is being, disheartened. So they came as and start working and helping him as a potter itself. So they will make pottery and they will sell the pottery for Gaurakumbha. And finally, when they went to Pandharpur, Bhagwan gave back his son again. Like that you see, in the life of so many saints, that Bhagwan come and serve them. So that happened when that mind is fully absorbed into him. It will not happen if somebody is finding an excuse, saying, okay, I will not go for prayer, I will not go to the temple because I have work to do. But in taking this as an excuse for not doing what is the dharma to purify themselves, which is worship the Lord himself. So worship the Lord can be in many ways, you see. It can be worshipping the Lord in the temple, you can worship the Lord within your heart, you can worship the Lord by doing your job properly and dedicate everything to his lotus feet. So that's where I said work is worship. But in which state you do that work, so that state, when a devotee truly and sincerely, they don't go for prayer or they don't do certain sadhana, they don't study all the stuff, but sincerely they have that longing for God, and they remember him, then the Lord will grace them and will have mercy upon them and will bless them really in success for everything, spiritually and even worldly things also. So it's not about running away from that. So that mind must be fully absorbed into remembrance of him.
Dear Guruji, on the spiritual path, you often talk about the importance of sincerity. What exactly is sincerity on the Bhakti path, and what is the best way to cultivate it to lead us to the feet of Narayana?
So firstly, sincerity. When we look at, in general, in life, we see that people, before this, when they are, spirituality is everything. But before they have that knowledge of what is spirituality, of course, then you enjoy everything. Because you are longing for this, you find that things will make me happy, and let me make myself happy by getting this. But are you truly happy into that? No, you don't. Because that happiness, whatever you're looking for, give you only a short-term happiness. So when we talk about sincerity in spirituality, we talk about not being sincere with somebody else, but being sincere firstly with oneself. Because if you say, okay, let me be sincere on my spiritual way. So what this means that I want to attain something. I want to be disciplined, because without discipline, this adds to the second part of your question itself, that without being disciplined in whether it is your study, whether it is your spiritual practices, if you are not disciplined, you will never be sincere. So by disciplining yourself, that sincerity also will awake. But firstly, you have to discipline your mind, which is very important. Because if your mind still wander around, sincerity becomes difficult, because then you will find, like I was saying earlier, you will find many excuses for not doing your sadhana also. So when we talk about sincerity, we talk about you take a certain decision and you stick to that decision. No matter what happened, you stick to it. You persevere into it. It's not say, okay, I do this now and I see whether it's work or not. If it's work, then it's good, and then I will carry on. But if it don't work, you expect a certain result in a certain limit of time, and if it doesn't happen during that time, then you will drop everything, you will not. Then what kind of sincereness you are looking for into that? Then you're not sincere. So like that also, you see, many people go on the spiritual path without knowing. That's why knowledge is important, where it helps you to understand the deepness of things, Otherwise, you will just go through life, and just go, okay, yes, I'm a little bit on spirituality, I enjoy spirituality, but yet you don't have the deepness of it. The deepness of it is like a tool, which the divine have given you. But having a tool in your hand doesn't mean that you know how to use it. So you must know when you have a tool how to use it for what you're using it. There's a story of a lumberjack, the man who cut trees. So there's this company who was recruiting new people. So they had many candidates who came to do the exam, that they can see, which one is better. So seeing many people, they choose one gentleman from the village nearby, and they see that he was well built and strong. They said, okay, let's take him. He used to be a wood cutter. He used to, and he fit the profile. So they took him to work, and as he was working, the first day they gave him a chainsaw. So that man never seen a chainsaw in his life. So for him it was completely new. So he went to work the first day. Everybody, how many trees he cut, he have to report it to the team, the head of the team leader. Yeah. So you have to report it to the team leader. So when the first day, everybody cut 30 trees, and he cut only 4 trees. And it was a bit shocked, was wondering, why? It's strange. And normally that man will cut 10 trees with an axe. With an axe, he was very good. He will cut 10 trees. So, second day, they all cut 30 trees. He managed to cut one more tree, which is 5 trees. So like that, this carries on for 2 weeks. So after 2 weeks, the young man was so disappointed with himself, because everybody is cutting 30 trees and he's cutting only 5 trees every day. And he was so disheartened. And he said, okay, I will, quit the job. Because with my normal axe, I will cut 10 trees, and that chainsaw, I will cut only 5 trees. Not possible. So the team leader, he went to the team leader and said that I want to quit. And the team leader said, wait, let me see how you are cutting the trees. Please show me. So on the appointed time, he went with the team leader, and him went and said, show me how you're cutting the tree. So he took the saw, and he was chainsaw, he was sawing the tree up and down, and that shocked the team leader. stunned by that, he walked to him and he put the chainsaw on. And the chainsaw started to cut very easily. So you see, this is how easy it is when you have the right knowledge about things. Otherwise, you may have every tools you possible, but if you don't know how to use it, then it will be completely useless. So.
Jagaradev Guruji, when I care for people close to me, I tend to tell them what to do because I fear they'll make mistakes if I don't tell them, and sometimes the mistakes have heavy consequences. Should I accept their situations or should I continue getting involved?
Well, this is a general question in itself. It's quite difficult to say because everybody is different. I can't say that they are wrong or you are right, or they are right or you are wrong. So it always depends on the way how you see things. What is good for you can be not good for them, and what is not good for them can be good for you. So it is irrelevant to in that concept to say that okay, I should tell them what is wrong. So you see, what is wrong for you, like I said, it can be good for them from their point of view. So you see, how you approach a certain situation is important also. You have sometimes to be diplomatic in approaching a certain situation. Firstly, in your question you said you see that they are doing something wrong. And if you perceived that this is wrong, let's say a friend can tell a friend when the friend is doing something wrong. The friend will listen because that's what the friend is there for. The friend will not do something and say, okay, let's ruin yourself, let's put yourself in danger. So in that context, yes, you can. If there is this trust that that person has for you and the person listens to you, then you can tell the person, look, this is wrong. But you have always to give why it is wrong. Because you see, very easy to say, oh, you are wrong. What you are doing is wrong. But give the right reason why is it wrong. Like you're talking to a kids, for a child, for example, often people, when they tell tell to the child, no, you should not do that, but they don't give the reason why you should not do that. But when you give the reason why it is wrong what you're doing, that person will understand. Then the person also will start to think, that can be also that I am wrong. So in that context, yes, you can tell the person, yes, you are wrong, if that person is ready to listen to you and if that person is dear to you. But if that person is not dear to you, and if you tell the person it is wrong, the person will not listen to you. So it all depends upon what kind of relation you have toward that person. So yesterday, for example, Jai Gopal was telling the last question about it was who shall we surrender to? We shall surrender to Narayana, we shall surrender to Lakshmi, or we shall surrender to Guru. But in my mind, I didn't understand the question properly. That's why I said, yesterday the answer, I said, okay, they are all one. But in reality, no, they are all separate identities, Firstly, to surrender, it's imperative to surrender firstly to the Guru's feet. When you surrender to the Guru's feet, you take shelter to Guru, for the grace of Guru, he will bring you to the lotus feet of Sriman Narayana. And when we talk about Sriman Narayana, automatically, Shri is there with Narayana. So surrender, firstly, what you have to do is surrender to the lotus feet of the Guru, firstly, which will bring you to the lotus feet of Lakshmi Narayana. So you see, that misunderstanding of how one is saying and how one is understand can happen also when you try to tell somebody something, and that person don't understand you. This is very often, that's why there is misunderstanding. Then the person will tell you, who are you to tell me that I am wrong? They will not see that whatever you are doing, it is for their benefit. And like I said, it could be that you also be it wrong, because in their eyes, whatever they are doing, they have a certain understanding of what they are doing is right. So you have to also understand from their point of view where they come from and what is the reason for them to really do the things that they're doing. So understanding from both sides, of course, then you can discuss with the person. So it's not only just to say to the person, you are wrong, but talk with the person, explain to the person. Then the right understanding comes.
If we, as your devotees, experience some close relationships with friends or family members, can we assume that you are their guru too, even though they may not be aware of it just yet?
You see, guru is not just because they are not, because you are associating with them. That means that they are also the devotees or disciple. It's not like this. You are like a light in the darkness. So if they are on the spiritual path, you can also act as a light to bring others to the spiritual path. So it doesn't mean that they are also ready for that. So first, what you have to do is you have to make them, you have to be an example, let's put it in that way, among them. When you are an example among them, that will start to change certain things inside of them. So when that changes, they see that, oh, look, you have a different glow inside of you. You are different. You are more radiant. You are more joyful and happy. So that start to react upon. They start to look at their own life itself. So then they may take interest upon your path itself. They start to think, but what you show to the people is very important. So if you show that, let's say, very often on the spiritual path, people are very ungrounded. Yesterday I was talking with Anshul, was talking about how in the village itself there is such misconception of us up here, and how the people in the village, they see us also because they don't know anything. And also one thing is, some ungrounded people, what they show to them down there, of course then the whole mentality of things change. So if you want to really bring a difference to the people, you see, you have to know also what you are showing to the people. So if you are joyful and happy, and they see that, yes, you are joyful truly and happy about your spiritual life, yes, then you will become inspiration for them. But if you are not happy, you're miserable, you're ungrounded, which some people who were living in the village, some devotee who was living in the village down, the people saw them, they say, but these people are crazy. Of course, when they see one which is crazy, they will generalize everything which is crazy. So if you show that kind, of course, this will scare the people around you. So then you will not be an inspiration for others to change. So if you are an inspiration for others to change, so then, of course, then you can, little by little, give them what you have inside of you, because that's what you stand for. If you're a devotee, you're radiating that light, you're radiating that blessing also for you. So then you become an inspiration. Then the people will start to look, oh, that person is different. So let's associate a little bit, get to know a little bit about what it is, So by that's why it's very important to be grounded and really do your spiritual practice and be grounded, be an inspiration to others. Then the people will come. Then whether they become devotee or more one get involved into that spiritual path, more they start to understand, more it becomes clear for them. Funny, as we are saying that, there is one devotee, she used to come, and of course her mom was always against, and saying, oh, what are you doing with your life? You are young, you are ruining yourself, all this, And she was always be discouraged by her mom itself. And then she moved to the ashram and she stayed here for some times, And the mother will come and visit, but she will not get involved with anybody. But slowly she saw that her daughter is happy. And there is a certain change in her daughter's life, So she started to get interested. So she started to listen to the satsang and so on. So that bring a different change in herself. So then she started to say, okay, let me try and see. So she started coming for darshan, and she started coming for satsang, prayers. And of course, then she, after some times, she took initiation as devotee, and she now lives in the village itself. So like that, you see, when one doesn't have experience, or they have wrong experience of the devotee, of course, then they will get scared. They pull themselves back. But when one show that, yes, sincerely, I am happy, and I'm not going to change you. I'm not going to force you to change. I'm not imposing my ideas upon you, but allow them to come to you. That will bring the change in the people around you, your family, and so on. So, in that, yes, that is the role of a devotee, to spread what they receive, that grace which God have given them. They should also let it, stain others also with that love. So, Jai Gurudev.